This conference will now be recorded.
All right, good morning, everybody. I have 9:35 on Wednesday, March 6th. We do have a quorum. Just a note, Ryan clearly is not here again. He is in DC this week, representing Central Texas on the national level, so I am stepping in again. Item number 2 is opportunity for public comment. If there's anyone here who would like to make a public comment, need if there's anyone online.
There's 8 members online and a stakeholder.
Great. Anyone want to make a comment?
Does not appear so.
We will move on to item number 3, which is staff update. You'll see on the screen, and there's a slight change from the packet that was sent out. The Freight Advisory Committee meeting on April 23rd was not listed, but that is scheduled for April 23rd at 2 p.m. We only have a short other staff update, and that is the Tempo March meeting is coming up in a couple weeks. We'll provide a full update. Ryan at the next meeting will provide a full update, but just want to share a few topics that are on there that are of interest. We're going to get a new update on the new MPO, which is Eagle Pass, and that's has to do with our planning dollars that we get, and I know TxDOT's looking at that. There'll be an update on the electrical vehicle infrastructure plan, some discussion on the greenhouse gas rulemaking and performance measures, an update on the statewide active transportation and multimodal plan, and it also looks like the state is making some changes to how they calculate their safety targets. I know we set our own for the region, but that may impact how we do it next year. And then lastly, there's a discussion on the new manual on uniform traffic control devices and impacts for the MPO. And then last thing is air quality for the month of February. It was 51 parts per million in Killeen and 48 at the town station. That's all I have for staff update today. We'll move on then to item number 4, which is regarding approval of minutes from the February 14, 2024 meeting. Those are included in your packet. Comments?
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Second.
Thank you, Jason. Daryl, we have a motion, a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Item number 5 is the discussion and action item regarding recommending approval of resolution 2024-04, recognizing April 2024 as National Distracted Driving Month. This is a new resolution that we're wanting to pass yearly. I think last year was maybe the first time we had it. The language is actually the same. Last time when we did this, TxDOT had released a statement or a news update on statewide distracted driving crashes and deaths. We looked this time and staff couldn't find anything. I did check our regional dashboard for the last 5 years, and there were 1,767 crashes whose primary cause was distracted driving in the region, and those crashes resulted in 11 fatalities and 41 serious injuries. Those numbers are likely underrepresented, and then we had a lot of conversations about that when we were talking about safety targets and the data. So it's most likely higher than that, but we encounter this on a daily basis, and it's important to highlight distracted driving and all us and try and get the whole region to do a better job at not driving distracted. So resolution is included in your packet, and if there are no concerns, you can entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Thanks, Myra.
Second.
Thank you, Bobby. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Item number 6 is a discussion and action item regarding recommending approval of amendments to the FY 23 to 26 Transportation Improvement Program and 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan. There are 7 projects. We have completed our, here are the projects listed. We saw these last month when we initiated or started public involvement. Again, just a quick reminder, there's 4 TxDOT statewide selected transportation alternative projects, 1 NEVI project in Killeen, and then 2 Bell County submitted projects that are being added to the TP as they pursue grants for those projects. We had a public comment period from February 26th to March 11. It's still ongoing. It'll end on Monday, I believe. 1 comment has been received so far at our meeting that was held last Wednesday, and they were interested in where the Riverside Trail Improvement Project was located. Staff followed up with a map of that project. Like I said, we're still in the middle of our comment period. It'll end next week before policy board. If there are any additional comments between now and then, we'll share those with policy board at their meeting in 2 weeks. Generally, when we have this scenario, the motion is to recommend approval pending any comments, of course, on the projects received. Any questions?
What's the financial impact of the DP and the TIP?
No impact to MPO funding. The 4 transportation alternative projects are being funded with state dollars or federal dollars. And the NEVI project's the same. It's a statewide dollar and or federal dollar and a private dollar split. The other 2 projects don't have any funding attached to them right now. Any other questions? Entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the amendments to the FY 23-26 TIP and TP.
Thanks, Jason. Thanks, Daryl. Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Same sign. Motion carries. Item number 7 is a discussion and action item regarding recommending initiation of public involvement for the FY 2025 to 2028 Transportation Improvement Program. We talked about this last time as well and shared a draft. There was an update, some updates to that draft document that were sent out. Monday was the last version. There may be a couple more minor tweaks. Jason emailed me this morning requesting a project be moved from FY 25 to 26, but the list of projects in there and the funding table should be correct. As a reminder, we did discuss what projects to include in this initial tip, since we're still in the middle of our process with the NTP listing and approving that, and the recommendation from TAC and was approved by policy board agreed to it was to just carry over the existing projects in 25 and 26 and wait until the November STIP revision to add in the other projects that will be approved in May. Here are the budget or current budget. Again, category 2, those numbers are probably not correct because TxDOT just had a project come in way under bid, and so there's more money available there. This is mostly for reference. We'll be sharing confirmed numbers when we talk about funding scenarios over the next couple months. There it is. Here's the schedule. We start public involvement on March 25th. There is a 30-day comment period required. We'll go through April 23. We'll have at least 2 public meetings. Those dates are tentative and the locations aren't set yet. We bring back the draft tip or the final draft tip for approval in May and would submit everything to TxDOT in June. Any questions or comments?
Can you just, on that one, how you doing this morning? Can you sit down after this meeting?
Yeah.
Just kind of go through some of the weeds.
Yeah, we can talk. I know that's a long document, so if people need more time to review, or if you are looking at it after this meeting, you have comments, you can always send those to staff. If we get them between now and policy board, we can include them before we have the policy board initiate board development. This is an action item, so there's no other comments. Motion,
To approve.
thanks, Bobby.
Second. You pick it.
Thanks, Bobby. Brian, thank you for the second. We have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you, everybody. Item number 8 is a discussion item regarding draft project scores from the 2023 Killeen-Temple project call. As all aware, we had a call for projects in September and October. I received 107, 73 roadway, and 34 livability. And we've been working with a consultant, High Street, over the past 2 months to complete, 3 months now, to complete objective scoring. Most of it is done. There is still one or two columns that have been delayed a little bit due to a snag with our travel demand model and our future year network, but we're working through that. And I know I promised final scores this meeting, and that unfortunately hasn't happened, but we are working on it, and we'll get those to you as soon as possible. In the meantime, we wanted to share what we have received, which is all the other criteria and also averages for subjective scores. There was a spreadsheet sent out on Monday, so you can view that. I don't have a prospective timeline for when this last criterion will have scores for them. I'm hoping by policy board, but we'll see how it goes. It's taking longer than expected. That's all I really have to report. I just want to share an update and get those scores so everyone can kind of see where things are shaking out right now. We can pull up the spreadsheet if the TAC wants to discuss them, or if you need more time to review and get back to us. The last thing I wanted to mention is I was looking at the scoring guidelines and realized that we had amended them to split the roadway projects received into the ones that were larger for the category 2 eligible, like on-system projects versus off-system projects. In the spreadsheet that was sent out, I missed that before, and so that you won't see that, but in the final spreadsheet that we send out with the scores, we have split those projects up. And so there'll be 3 rankings for clarity. I know those bigger projects oftentimes get higher scores because they're larger.
Just to make sure I'm tracking, the only category that you haven't got from the consultant is the level of service builders. The rest of the scores that you see, we don't expect those to change.
Category 2 and a 7, and you're ranking your
For local
1 through
priority,
5. Yeah, and
them are primarily on system, like desktop, all theirs are on system. If any entity has concerns with how their projects are being ranked with the local priority, we can talk about it and adjust potentially. Yeah.
And some of this can come out of the funding scenario. So if your number one is eligible for Cat 2 because it's on system, then you'll end up in that column.
Mhm.
And then if your number 2 is eligible for Cat 7, potentially, and that's, isolating you from all the rest of the cities, but
Mhm.
you could jump from eligibility to eligibility.
Mhm.
And you guys always do different scenarios where one's roadway heavy or livability heavy, or
Yes.
small city versus large city, to try to different ways to slice the sausage.
Yes. I also want to note on the livability side, we had a discussion about how to get BPAC involved. And so there is a separate column with the subjective scores we received from BPAC. We only received 2 sets of scores from the committee, so those wanted to share that information. I think from the TAC it was 7 or 8, I don't remember exactly, but we did not receive scores from every entity, entity for the TAC subjectively.
Do we need to name and shame people? And is it too late if they have not submitted their scores to get them in?
The scores aren't final, so if people still wanted to, we could add them in fairly easily.
So I don't want to embarrass anyone publicly, but maybe staff.
Yeah.
Send
I
a
know-
strongly worded letter.
I know last time we did not receive the scores from every TAC member, and so we used what we had, and because it's an average,
Sure.
I think staff does not have an issue with using the scores as they are.
I mean, ultimately, it's their choice. I'm less concerned about whether my project, the Garrett's project, or Bob's project is going to be the case of we get a better process, we have more participation. So if we can encourage that as much as possible, that should be a good thing in general.
I noticed that there were some big differences between the BPAC and the TAC.
Mm-hmm.
And so is that something then that we need to consider and be open for adjustments? Or
That's
we
the
just
idea.
gather because right now as it's presented, it's like, we gather their information, but it doesn't really factor in.
I would say just from staff's perspective, our idea was to have TAC and BPAC both score and then to present those and let the TAC, like you said, Christina, consider those scores, and if there needs to be a change, we're not using both scores. Right now, the ranking, well, you can see the 2 rankings and the differences. We would choose one or the other, so, or maybe there's another solution, I don't know.
Yeah, it certainly could be looked at in terms of, so I'll spin out 2 scenarios. Is one of the funding scenarios takes that into account and emphasizes those projects because BPAC had that emphasis. For example, and I'm just looking at the spreadsheet, livability Belton's project was number 11, but then BPAC was ranked number 2. So is that impetus to move that project up in the funding scenario, even if maybe we don't change the ultimate ranking when we come to the funding scenarios to spend some Cat 7 or Cat 9 on that money, on that project. That's one way to do it. And the other way, and we've done this before, is just discuss it, reach consensus, and say, hey, there is enough of a discrepancy. We want to include, BPAC's input. And even though it ranked out as, I'm just going to pick a number, H50 pedestrian improvements on Ann Boulevard was number 16, but maybe to fund number 16, it needs to be at number 12. If we as a group feel strongly enough about Ann Boulevard, and make a motion to move Ann up to 12 and bump everybody, down a slot. We can do that as consensus. I think from past discussions, the group would rather have something that's kind of quantifiable before we just arbitrarily move projects. So I'm thinking the funding scenario discussion is say that as we distribute the funds, then we're doing that with a look at BPAC versus just arbitrarily moving somebody up to qualify for the funds. That's the conversation we had in the past with bonus points or even local priority, where maybe it was each city's local priority didn't score well. But we wanted to make sure that those priority projects were funded. We made an arbitrary decision, okay, all the number one priority projects are going to slide up in the ranking to ensure they get funded. And there was some controversy on that. So I say that as not having an answer to the question, but having two possible ways to reach an answer.
You mentioned bonus points, and that is an option.
That's an option as well.
It's in the guidelines for,
Yeah.
to be added. Any other discussion, comments? I know it'd be a little hard for the roadways since the scores aren't final, and if we need to, we can schedule one or multiple workshops to just tack to primarily discuss this. And I know we probably do that when we get to funding scenarios, is there's always a lot of discussion about that, so.
I know that we haven't talked about this part because we're just focused on scoring, but now that we're getting close to ranking and shuffling around, the livability track would be better served by having a ceiling on it so that everybody can get a quality of life type project going instead of like having one major project dominate that whole category for scores. And I know sometimes you take it and you split it between the two categories to make it work so that it can still happen, but just something to consider, like a $1 to $2 million ceiling on livability track would make sure that it stays bike focused instead of roadway too. Because the roadway will eat up that budget before you get to those other complete street components that are supposed to be prioritized in this track.
And I'll speak for Temple because our sidewalks on 3rd Street ranked out first. And that's $3.5 million. That's a lot of money considering there's only, what, 870,000 for Cat 9? I looked at it 2 days ago, but I've slept since then. Per year, there's less than $1 million Cat 9 per year. And we've done this in the past too with the Georgetown Trail. We had a greater ask and we said, well, we'll lower that. We'll take a smaller award to allow somebody else to get funded. The offers on the table, we would do the same thing with 3rd Street. Because that's a gap filling project. So if it means that we take less money and we fill fewer gaps, that allows maybe a Nolanville project or a Heights project to get funded, absolutely willing to negotiate that one. We can make that work. Just means that Karen may have to buy me some tacos.
Deal.
And kind of looking at it the other way too, I noticed on the roadway, there was one that was way down the priority list for us, but it ranked so high, it's not even projected in the near future for it to be funded. So from our aspect, there may be some where we may be willing to give up or might request a relook at a different one.
Which one's that?
So if you're looking at business 190 phase 3, it ranked up at number 17, but that was one of our lowest priorities. It didn't even rank in the top 5.
So you're saying it's not visibility?
No, you're not close. was just put in there as a, hey, this is coming.
In the plan, so.
Yeah. And
That's a
that way-
good project, I think that's why.
What?
I think this is a good project.
Well, but that's on the Killeen side, that's not on the Nolanville side. The Nolanville side, we had ranked higher, just due to the redevelopment. But there's a few others that are, we don't have the current safety data on it yet because the school just opened. Although we know we've had a lot of near misses with kids getting hit, or like a recent accident just this year, right after this was due, turned in over on Chaparral. So there's a few other local priorities that didn't even rank in the top 20. So we have some concerns, because it seems like all of our TechStot on system ones that were projected way out ranked higher.
On that note, staff will send out after this a spreadsheet with where the roadway projects are broken out. That'll probably be easier to review and see, because they'll be broken out by the larger ones versus the smaller ones in two separate ones. And a list of 73 projects it's a long list to look through and with all those numbers. So. Are there any glaring, I mean, I know sometimes the scores don't shake out how you want them to, but does anyone have any concerns with specific scores that they saw, specifically on the objective side of things, like things that didn't look like they made sense or were potentially incorrect? If there are something, we want to take a look at that with our consultant.
I want to reply to your question in a way that kind of indicates that, I haven't had a chance to really go through the spreadsheet.
Yeah.
To the extent that I'd like to, and give you a good answer. I don't want to just shrug my shoulders at your question. Yeah. Let it go at that.
Yeah.
I just want you to know, and I'm sure the other members of the TAC and the policy board also have interest in seeing, or having time to look this thing over in more detail.
Yeah.
Kind of, digest. That's
Yeah.
my response to you. That's either a yes or a no.
Yeah, no, definitely, and that wasn't that was for now, but also for future, send us an email, let us know, give me a call, whatever, let me know if there's concerns with scores or something doesn't look right to you for projects.
James, then I'll send you email, Outer Loop West Phase 2 is 0 points for existing level service. And understand that's a new road that has not been built.
Mm-hmm.
Just refresh my memory on the scoring criteria for new roads. They automatically get 0 for AT, or is that, I haven't had time to look at that myself.
Yeah, if there's no current ADT, if there's no data, they get 0 points. If it's less than 2,500, they get 0 points.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions, concerns? Do we need to stay here a little bit longer or move on for now? I'm getting
Silence is consent.
All right. Please, over the next 2 weeks, let us know, and as soon as we have those final scores, we'll send them out and can schedule a workshop to just talk about them before we get into funding scenarios. Item number 9 is the discussion item regarding an update on the MTP steering committee. We had our second meeting with the committee a couple weeks ago after, 2 weeks ago after policy board meeting, and there's some good discussion with the group about making improvements to our MTP vision and goals. Staff are working on some draft language that we'll be presenting for recommendation at the next meeting, currently scheduled for after the March policy board meeting. We're also planning, and this will be in conjunction with our TIP public meeting, but requesting feedback on that draft language that we developed at our meeting on April 18th. I don't know where that will be yet, but we want to try and, before we have our official MTP public comment period, public meetings, want to get some initial feedback from the public as we can between now and then. That's all I have for that item. Questions? All right, moving on. Item number 10 is a discussion item regarding an update on the SS4A grant. I don't have too much to report on. We do have our monthly safety task force meeting for March next week. Also mentioned that staff and our consultant had a call on Monday with Cordell County and their consultant just to make sure we're on the same page in coordinating the 6-county plan versus Cordell counties, and talking about how to integrate those at the end of the process so it's one cohesive plan. I think it was a good call, and we're on the same page, on the same track. So those are the SS4A grant updates I have for everybody.
I was going to say, I would remind members of the board that the SS4A is a $25 million pot of money per plan, so to speak. So as this is being developed and plans or projects are being implemented and considered in that, you might want to start looking at, your priorities within the overall plan as well, because following the plan then also becomes an application. Just so everybody's aware, just as a hypothetical, Carol, if you don't mind me picking on you, that within the plan, if there's a project for Nolanville independently, because they're identified within the overall plan, can apply for a project implementation funds. So all of the jurisdictions have that ability. It's just that within the COG region, they're capped at 25 million for that funding cycle. So just didn't want people to lose sight of that because we're still a little bit of ways out. So there may end up being some discussions about that later on, but you all are able to independently apply for a piece of that 25 million. And thank you for letting me.
Judge, thank you. That also reminded me, right now the FY24 call is open. I know the region can't apply for implementation funds, but there are a whole bunch of demonstration funds available and planning funds available. And I know that FHWA, they've expressed that they're undersubscribed. So if your entity has ideas for demonstration projects, which are like temporary, there's a lot of funding available for that out there, and you're encouraged to apply for that. I know as the COG and the MPO, we're looking at how we can navigate that through our current grant, and if there are additional things we can do. And we've been talking with our consultant. So if you have ideas and you're not sure how to work it through, we can have a conversation with our consultant. And I know that's something that we're exploring, and we want to make sure we're not just stuck on the implementation, but if there's good demonstration projects, we can get funding for those too.
James, looking at the calendar invite for the meeting.
Yeah.
Dan's got 3 items on the agenda: safety visioning activity, planning goals and reviewing feedback, and a project list for reviewing feedback. Do you know if he's got a draft document that he's going to send out, or are we just going shoot through it during the meeting?
I believe he'll send something out. We actually have a workshop with the consultant scheduled for tomorrow. Staff to kind of talk through all that, and I think after that, we'll send
Sounds
something
good.
out.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Okay, item number 11 is a discussion item regarding update on the possible MPO boundary expansion, and I actually have some information to share for the first time in however. I know. We got an email a couple weeks ago from TxDOT, and they sent over a short list. I think there's 5 projects that are within Coryell and Lampasas counties that currently have category 4R, which is rural funds attached to them. And if we expand our boundary, those projects would lose that funding. I don't have the total off the top of my head, but it was in several $100 billion, I think, in total there's a couple large projects. 2 of them are scheduled to let next fiscal year, and then 3 in fiscal year 28 right now. Urian did ask if, since those projects already have funding attached, if that funding attachment could carry over even if we expand, and the answer is no. If we expand the boundary, they would lose those funds. We haven't yet had a follow-up meeting with Brownwood and Waco District, but I know that we don't want them to lose their funds for those projects. So still not sure what the plan is. Urian and I have talked briefly about maybe setting a potential expansion date of fiscal year 2028 after those projects have let, because then there wouldn't be any danger of funds being lost. But
That was going to be my question. So once they let, could we expand?
Yes.
Or does it have to be after the
I believe
completion?
once they let, we can expand our boundary, because then the funds will be obligated.
Right.
That's my understanding, at least.
James, could we get a list of what those projects are? Because I think, at least from my standpoint, depending on how either Coryell County or Lampasas County values those projects, I think impacts this overall decision. There should be some input, whether on the rural side, does it really meet our needs versus expanding MPO boundaries?
Yeah. We'll send that out. I believe there are 4 Lampasas projects in 1 Coryell County, and the Lampasas ones, it was 2 on 183 and 2 on 281. And then the Coryell County, I can't remember if it may have been 84 somewhere. But we can send that list out after. And Urian's out this week, but I think when he gets back, we'll have a follow-up conversation with Waco District and Brownwood District. Just about impacts. The other thing I want to add is Urian asked about potential planning dollar impacts, and there's a lot of uncertainty around that because there's a new MPO, and TxDOT's looking at refining their formula for that. And for those who may not be aware, that planning dollar, that's what funds staff's time and all of the efforts the planning efforts we have. That's not implementation funds, which are separate and based on the urban area. So don't know how it's all going to shake out, but that is the update I have on the potential boundary expansion. Any other questions, discussion? All right, moving on. Item number 12 is a discussion item regarding the April 8, 2024 solar eclipse event. Judge Miller, I know this was your suggestion, so if you want to kick us off.
Oh, gosh. Where do I begin? I don't know if any of y'all have put together kind of what your impact plans for transportation are going to be. We've had initial talks with TxDOT about traffic control along highways 36 and 84, and they just unequivocally said, no, we're not going to be able to do that. So my answer to that is I'm just going to cover it in our declaration of local disaster. And then I guess I can get into a fight with the state. Governor Abbott's good about fighting entities right now, so not trying to pick a fight, but we feel that some of those traffic control measures are critical to maintaining emergency responses. And then, so I'll put that out there for you. And then again, just from Cordell standpoint, I still continue to see anywhere from 2,000 to 200,000 coming into Cordell County. I'm sure that Bell County's astronomical compared to that. And there's several graphs that show that line that comes up through the Central Texas corridor. So I would just say I would encourage all of you to take a look at really what your emergency services are and how do you manage those, and encourage local businesses to keep their doors open and reap the rewards of all those sales tax of outside entities coming in. And we literally have seen some of our RV parks, really about 4 different ones that are expanding the number of slots that they have available. Planning just for this event because they think they can recoup that cost of the entire project just in this one event. Bed and breakfast places are popping up all over. And again, that's great hotel motel tax, because I keep pushing that. Even those that are just renting out rooms temporarily, I believe, are subject to that as well. So good luck to all of you. That's all I have.
I would add to that, we did have a continued discussion with the transit service with the board meeting last week. So we are going to move forward with just canceling all transit service on April 8th. We really just feel like having, especially our larger buses out on the road, will just cause more problems with traffic congestion than anything. However, an exception to that would be we are going to go ahead and provide 1 vehicle each for each city and each county to be located strategically. We're still coordinating with emergency response groups as far as where they should be. But for the most part, it'll be more in the center or co-located with wherever the emergency response vehicles, et cetera, are. Just to have a bus available in case something comes up that would require moving many people, so at once. So we can do that. But otherwise, we're going to close. We are coordinating with the dialysis clinics as well to try to get our regular scheduled trips on that day to be taken care of, either possibly Sunday, the day before, or Tuesday, the day after. So we'll double up on that.
Anybody else? From a staff question, I was looking at the calendar and our next TAC meeting is scheduled for April 3rd. Just wanted to see if that is going to be an issue since that's right before, and attendance wise, if we need to potentially move that to another date. I know a week later doesn't really help us out since that's right after, and that might be worse, but I know there's also a lot of important things going on, so I don't want to cancel our meeting if we have to, but.
I don't see a reason to cancel the meeting on the 3rd.
Okay.
No, I don't.
Yes.
I think most folks are going to be coming in on the weekend.
Yeah.
And I think the consensus is it's not the incoming traffic, it's going to be everybody leaving. Yeah. At the same time, it's going to be the nightmare.
Okay. Anyone else see? Sounds like people would be free and available to come that day. Quorum is the big thing. If other things come up, I don't think, Judge, if you've got stuff preparing things that you need to prepare and you can't come, then that was my thought with asking that question.
No, this is gonna give me a break
Great.
from that mindset. So, yeah, I would be glad to attend on the 3rd.
Okay. Great, we will keep that meeting then. Okay, last discussion item is regarding number 13, regarding public input received through February 2024. There's a long comment email that we received mostly about lighting, and I think they were confusing us with Capcom or the Campo Austin area MPO. There's a lot of references to roadways down there, so staff responded to that comment. Informed them that we cover Killeen-Temple and we don't cover Campo, and directed them to Campo if they have specific concerns. That was the only email comment we received in February. Item number 14 is member comments, and Daryl has a couple slides he wanted to share.
Yeah.
First.
Just by way, this is really just a real short update I wanted to fill you in. The overarching schedule for microtransit, if you'll recall, we started a pilot project out at Fort Cavazos during the months of February, and that's what these statistics are up on the slide there. We did and it went very, very well overall. Just taking a look through a few of these statistics on the far upper right corner, that 1941, that really is in reference to total ridership during the month of February, which is pretty good because this really just represents 2 vehicles out there in one zone. And then we also had 405 on the circulator, 1536 on the microtransit side itself. But some of the other numbers are also really encouraging. I'd point out towards the left second row, that 8.18, that's the median wait time that we had. So 8 minutes of wait time as opposed to a fixed route system where a lot of times people are waiting for an hour to catch a fixed route bus. It gives you a little peek at how much more efficient this system is and how much more convenient it is for passengers. The app also has a little review, give it a thumbs up, thumbs down kind of thing, a scale, a 5-star type thing. We're getting just during the month of February there, 98% review on that. And then also the lower right is all about on-time performance. So if you schedule a trip that leaves at a specific time, that's 98.84% on time. And then as far as drop-offs, just in general drop-offs were 85.71, and pickups were 100% on time. The 85%, one of the nice things about this system is it gives us this feedback daily. As we get it, we can see what we need to do. So, for example, on drop-offs, we probably need to add a couple more minutes into the rules that the software allows, and that will bring that number up a little bit higher. So anyway, those are just some key performance indicators that we will be tracking as we go. We did have a ribbon cutting ceremony on Saturday, this past Saturday, out at Fort Cavazos to transition from the pilot project to full-blown service. And it is, so now we're operating 15 vehicles out there, and I don't know what the total numbers are since Saturday, but I do know yesterday was like 377 riders in one day, which is very high. So this thing is taking off. It's a game changer with regard to how public transit and transportation is delivered for mass transit. So there might be one more. Oh yeah, just dates, et cetera. We did complete the stakeholder feedback meeting. So we met with Temple, one was at Jason 3-4 weeks ago, I would say. And then
February 2nd.
Oh, there's February 2nd. And then Killeen, we met on February 28th, and then Belton, we met yesterday. And that went very well. All three of those meetings went well. The purpose of that meeting was just to show them the maps of where the zones are going to be, and we have had discussions about, are we missing anything? And I think in all three of these meetings, we discovered little things that we had one example was the clinic here on West Adams. We had left that off, so we created a satellite for that. So we're just kind of fine tuning the boundaries of the zones. And then next week, starting on March 11th, 12, 13, 14, 15, we're having public hearings. Those are going to be, it's not just an announcement, but it's kind of a combination of announcing to the public that we are changing the service from fixed route to microtransit. We're also treating them as little education, travel training opportunities to show people how to operate the app and answer questions about how it's going to change. Hopefully be able to show them some statistics from Fort Cat as to how this can make their life a lot easier. So anyway, just a little update on microtransit, and we're really excited about it. It's moving forward real well. As far as start in the region, it will probably be towards the end of May. We still don't have our vehicles in. We had a recall on vehicles several months ago. They delayed us a little. It could slip into early June, but we're still hopeful that it will be late May when we start the service region-wide.
Thanks, Daryl. Anita?
Daryl, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you go back to those statistics slide?
Sure.
Please? Thank you. On the 8.18 median wait time versus, what's the difference between the pickup and the drop-off? How does those three statistics work together?
Well, the average wait time is from the time that you order the ride on the app till it actually shows up and you get on the vehicle. That's the average wait time. So 8 minutes, 8.18 minutes for an average wait time. And then the pickup time is just, keep in mind that when you order a ride to come and get you, it will give you an estimated time of when it will pick you up. And so far, at least out that month, at Fort Cap, it was 100% accurate, picking people up right on time. It will also give you an estimated drop-off time. So that number for the drop-off was almost 86% on time as far as drop-offs. And that's what I was referring to. In the software, we can program a minute or two more in to give it a little bit more travel time. So you've got wait time and travel time equals the whole experience. So we can add a couple more minutes in there, and that will bring that 85% up, closer to 100. But overall, it's real good. And by the way, there's a picture of what the vans, the vehicles look like out there at Fort Cav. Those particular ones are Dodge ProMaster 2500s. I'm 6 foot tall. I can stand up in that vehicle with about 3 fingers over my head before I hit my head. So that's good. They're very comfortable. They're leather seats, kind of that diamond stitching, quilting looking upholstery. Very quiet, very comfortable. Judge Miller took a very, very, very short ride in one last week across this parking lot right out in front of the building here. But they're really are a game changer, I think, in how we're going to deliver service overall.
Are those vans the ones that you said you had 15 vehicles? Is it that or?
Yes, for Fort Cavazos. Now, we also, on order, we have 40 vehicles on order for the regions. Started out with 25, then we bumped it to 35 yesterday. We bumped it up to 40 vehicles. And that really just has to do with us getting our game plan together for auctioning off our old vehicles and bringing in these new vehicles. So the new ones that will be in the region, they're not this. These are the ProMasters. The ones coming into the region are what are called Ford Transits. But it looks just like that. It's very similar. They're head-to-head competitors. That is a high roof ProMaster. The Ford Transits are what they call a mid-roof. But when you look at them, you can't even really tell the difference. When I stand up in the mid-roofs, I kind of have to tilt my head about an inch. So I think they're about 4 inches shorter than these, is my guesstimate. So otherwise, they're virtually the same vehicle. 39% of the vehicles will be ADA compliant, so they will have a chair lift. So what is that? 61% of them are just basically have about a dozen seats in them. Other questions?
This is the same map that the Ford's using is what will be used for the cities, correct?
The same
The same app?
yes,
Same software vendor?
It is, yes. Really a interesting app. I can bring a little video in here and show you if you want. You basically just go to the App Store, you download the app. It will ask you a few questions, name, how are you going to pay? It will give you choices on how you're going to pay. If it's a credit card or a debit card, you just plug that information in. There's also other choices, like we are keeping our 1-month pass, we're keeping our punch cards, we're keeping our tokens. So it has check boxes for that information. So you just check how you're paying for it, and that will inform the driver how you're paying for it. If you are in a wheelchair, there's a little box that you hit for check it, and that tells the software that it needs to be an ADA compliant vehicle that picks that person up. So it will only dispatch those type of vehicles. It asks you how many riders are there? Is it just you? Is it you and a child? Is it you and a guest? Whatever. So it knows how many people. That takes that into account. It gives you your time of arrival when the bus will pick you up. In this case, 8 minutes. Wait time. It will tell you the bus will be there in 12 minutes. It will be there in 5 minutes. It will be there in 8 minutes, whatever. It'll give you an estimate of when it will drop you off at your destination. You have to put an address in of where you're going. Actually, it's very much like Google. You could just type in Bell County Expo, and it would pop up and you just click it. So it does have all those addresses in there if you want. So anyway, just a very dynamic, fluid system, very, very much like Uber or Lyft, with the exception of it's still a shared ride system. So it will pick you up, and on your way to that destination, it may pick up a few more people as it's traversing that direction. Other questions? Okay.
Thanks, Daryl.
More to come.
Any other member comments? All right.
That was it.
You can go to that other slide.
With our communications people.
I wasn't trying to end it, just.
Oh, okay. Thought you were going.
Promoting that.
Oh, okay.
Remember, I was looking for this slide here. This is where we were. Oh, okay. But if there are no other comments, then we'll go to that last slide, and we're adjourned 10:33 a.m. Thanks, everybody.